you doing, lady? What is that you're stewing? Don't stray far from the hearth place, not while you are brewing.
So welcome everybody to the Witchlit podcast. It's been such a long time since we've seen you all, but you are very welcome and thank you so much for joining us. So today it's myself and Sheena and our lovely guest Serene Conneeley, all the way from Australia. So we're really excited about that. Now we've got technology sorted out. We're witches that can talk across the miles, and that's really brilliant. So we thought that we'd just start with our normal in the broom cupboard kind of start as to what we've been up to since the last podcast. Now, obviously, it's an awful lot has happened both in our lives and in the world, but we just thought it was a really good way to start. So I'll ask, so Sheena first, what have you been up to or what has happened to you since October 2019?
Okay, thank you, Wendy. Yeah, a lot has happened. I think in our last chat on the Witchlit show, I did mention that I was having problems writing because of my personal life, because my mum had been very ill. She had dementia for a couple of years. My mum died. She passed away just before Christmas, so beginning of November. It's just after Samhain. It was amazing, really, because I went into the care home and stayed with her actually at Samhain, on the night of Samhain, and stayed there for the whole week. And she passed over, which was amazing, profound experience, I can only say. But obviously, after that, then you got Christmas and the huge sort of loss of, and I still couldn't write, and I've only really in the last sort of couple of months have I started writing again. So I'm just kind of doing a little bit every day, 10 minutes a day. I'm working on a couple of books at the moment. One is a new non-fiction book, which is an expansion of my Magic of Nature Oracle, because I wrote the guidebook. So I'm kind of expanding on that. And it's called The Magical Nature. So I'm kind of really enjoying that. I'm feeling that I'm wanting to work on that at the moment. It feels like the right thing to do. The fiction, I'm doing 10 minutes a day. That's all I'm doing. Just getting me back into the groove, writing a little bit of a story. I'm sort of writing about different characters that I want to bring into this new book. And I'm really only finding out through writing a story about them. I'm not really a plotter. I'd much rather find out about my stories by writing stories as opposed to writing it all down on a pad about the. Do you understand what I'm saying? Rather than write about the writing, I'd rather do the writing and write the story and find out that way. So that's kind of really where I'm at, everybody. But I am trying to focus also on the marketing, because I've got that 3-book Witchlit series, so I'm trying to make the first one free at the moment, and because I'm wanting to sort of make it easier for people to get into the series. So by making that first book free, hopefully it's the right strategy. We can talk to Serene about that later, because I know she's done more than me anyway. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. But but this lockdown thing at the moment, to me, I know it's awful and everything, but I'm trying to make the most of it. I'm trying to make the most of actually having no distractions. I haven't got anything on my calendar. All our gigs have cancelled, the rehearsals have cancelled. So there's nothing on the calendar, which actually I quite like. We were saying this the other day, weren't we, Wendy? I quite like the fact that there's nothing on the calendar, because instinctively I want to fill it. I want to put things on the calendar, but you can't do that at the moment, can you? So I'm trying to use the time wisely and spend it on building my career, really, is as an indie author, and that's it. Over and out.
Cool. Okay, so just quickly from my perspective, since we spoke before, everything had really taken off for me. I was going to be relaunching myself as the Riverbank Witch. I was going to be launching an Etsy shop. I was going to be bringing everything together. I was going to be finishing the Witchlit series. But for me, we're the beginning of the virus in the world, and then as it has carried on, and then the enormity, the sadness, everything, I felt really, really profoundly. And I've been the total opposite. I have really struggled to write. It's very difficult to put into words how I felt. I've been totally blessed to have my Riverbank, to be able to ground myself every day. There's been up days, there's been bad days. I did tweet recently that my writing muse had taken a vacation, and although she had nipped back to pick up her favourite bikini, she'd gone off again. So, which was when we'd spoken, I'd actually written, after we'd spoken, I'd actually sat down and written a few things, but then the next day it was just gone again. But recently, so basically I'm using my land, I'm using doing physical work. I'm still teaching my ladies online. I'm keeping in contact with people. I'm trying to be a support for other people just as they are for me. And through that, I'm starting to get ideas. And the strange thing is, it isn't the Witchlit story, although part of that is starting to form in my head now. So I've got the last book in the Lizzie Martin series to write. It's the other story, the short story that I wrote, that it was suggested to me that I turned into a novel. It's that story that keeps bombarding my brain. So that's the one that I'm writing. So it wasn't it's on the outset, it doesn't particularly look witchlit, but it is turning into a more and more magical book the more I think about it. So that's the book that I keep telling myself I should finish the series before I start another one, but it's the book that seems to want to be written. So that's what I've been up to. So if we can now turn to our lovely guest Serene, who so I've only had a little bit of interaction with you online in the Witchlit group on Facebook. I only know a little bit about you from what I've read on your Amazon profile. So maybe you would care to introduce yourself and perhaps just tell us what you've been up to and how the outside world and stuff has been affecting you at the moment. So welcome.
Welcome, Serene.
Thank you. It's nice to be here, a little nerve-wracking. It hasn't changed so much for me just because I work from home anyway. But it's been hard for my husband because he works in a shop that isn't essential, but they've stayed open. So that's been kind of strange. But yeah, I have been struggling a little bit to write. And most of my writer friends have said the same thing. Like, we all thought, oh, we've got extra time, we should be able to write more. And it's been hard. But a writer friend today said that it's because we write from a place of hope, and at the moment that's the thing we're struggling with. So I guess it makes sense in a way. But a few weeks ago I launched my new book, which is an original Australian fairy tale. So yeah, I did the online launch and stuff. It's a bit different because we couldn't do public things. But yeah, that's what I've been doing, and now I'm just trying to write a bit each day.
Awesome. So perhaps you could share with us and share with our viewers a little bit about your magical journey. So kind of where the magic started in your life and sort of where you are now, if that would be okay.
Yeah, of course. I grew up in the country in Western Australia on a bush property. So my sister and I just kind of would run around in the forest and hang out there. Mum was always into sort of hippie stuff, hence my name, I guess. But so I did Reiki with her when I was quite young and things like that. I moved back to Sydney, so I live in the city, but there's a park right next to us. So I think that's what keeps me sane. Walk around the park and there's a swan about to have more cygnets and things like that kind of keep me grounded. I've travelled quite a bit in my late 20s, so I went to a lot of spiritual places. around the world. So that was kind of my first book. It's a non-fiction spiritual one. So yeah, I did a lot of rituals with shamans in Peru, and but kind of found myself when I was in Glastonbury and doing rituals there with priestesses and stuff. So that kind of feels like my other home, even though I'm on the other side of the world.
Awesome.
So yeah, I was in a coven in Sydney for a while, but that kind of imploded after a while. So I've pretty much been solitary, but just yeah, connecting with nature and the cycles of the moon and the seasons and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, cool. So reading, reading about you and what you've done, and also reading the beginning of your witchy magic book, that told me quite a bit. So I already knew. That's why I wanted you to share it with other people, because I think that's really important. So can you tell us how your magical and spiritual journey took you to the place where you felt you were ready to write Witchlit?
Kind of by accident, I think. I went to Peru. I was supposed to go with a friend, but she ended up having to cancel. So I was with a group, and I was away for 6 months, but I basically just had a ticket to London and then out of Germany. So I had to fill in all that time. And I just, I think, spoke to a friend who said, I think you'd really like Glastonbury. So that was how I ended up there. I went to a talk at the bookshop there with somebody from the Pagan, I'm not sure what yours is called, the Pagan Federation or Federation.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was kind of like, I guess when I had a name for it, what I'd always felt and the connection to the earth and nature. Yeah, so I've been back a few times and took my husband on our honeymoon. So now it's our place.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when did can I ask you, Serene, when did the writing start? When have you always written, or, how did that kind of happen?
Yeah, I've always been a journalist. So worked everything from kids magazines to entertainment and all sorts of stuff. And then when I was at, I think it was around early 2000s, but I was working for a women's magazine doing a spiritual page each week. So I'd interview Doreen Virtue and all those people. And when when I left that one, got from one of the publishing houses, said, which book are you going to write for us? So that was kind of what made me start writing.
So were you traditionally published to start with then, or when did your indie journey start?
I had a contract for the first book, but in the end I decided to give them the money back and do it myself.
Okay.
So that was an interesting journey, but I have no regrets at all. And I did 3 kind of in that magic series. I did a meditation CD as well, and a sort of half journal, half how to connect with nature and work with the seasons and create rituals for yourself. And then I wrote fairy magic, witchy magic and mermaid magic with a friend, and they were non-fiction as well. But out of the research for witchy magic is when I started writing novels, and I've been doing that ever since.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. It makes so much sense that so it's kind of out of your journey, your actual physical journey, and then the fact that you were already a journalist, it makes sense that the non-fiction, as it were, came first, and then out of that came that urge to kind of I just love finding out what drives people, what makes people. It makes such a difference to me when I'm reading the book if I know, and that's why I wanted you to share that with us and with the people watching, because I think that is gonna, that will make, when people then read your fiction, then they'll know you and they'll know where you came from, and I think that's just so really important. So did you want to do your question, Sheena, because I've only got one left on my list?
Right, okay. Well, ask away. Go on, ask that question.
All right, then I'll ask the final question then.
Okay.
So my question is, if you had a free year and you could write any story or any novel about anything, what would it be and why? So I know I'm putting you on the spot, But I just wondered whether there was something that you, a bit like my Lowry's Forest story, it's not necessarily witchlit. It didn't particularly start as that, and yet I feel really compelled to write it. And I wondered if you felt the same about any subject.
It would actually probably be because the first 3 novels I did were the Into the Mist trilogy, which was about a 17-year-old girl from Australia who ended up in England in a Glastonbury-like town with her priestess grandmother. And then the next 3 I did was a trilogy based on her best friend that started as a little book but became massive. But what I really want to write at some point is Rose, the priestess's story, so Carly's grandmother. And yeah, part of me thinks I have to wait till I'm a little bit wiser because she's a wise woman. But yeah, and it will take a while because those books get quite long. So I guess if I had a year, I'd probably tackle that one.
Oh wow, that sounds awesome. That sounds really awesome. So don't lose hope that you won't have the time to do it, because I'm sure you will. And the fact that you've thought, oh yeah, maybe I need to be a little bit wiser or whatever, maybe that will come. But that's really lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, Sheena, over to you.
Well, can I just say, before I ask any questions for Serene, I am reading. Serene very kindly and generously sent me the links to that trilogy, didn't you, Serene, on audio. So I've got all those books on audio, and I'm listening to Into the Mist at the moment, out on my dog walks, and thoroughly enjoying it. So I'm just getting into Carly's story and Rose. Yeah, I think I'm probably about 4 or 5 chapters in, but no, I'm enjoying it, Serene. So thank you for that. And
you're welcome.
And I've always got great respect for anybody that writes books, because I feel like I'm a baby really in the book world, having only sort of been doing it for a few years. But my God, it is hard bloody work, isn't it? The sheer volume of words that you have to put down on paper before those books come to fruition, and somebody has got that physical book in their hands or on their Kindle or on Audible or whatever it is. It's a lot of work. And yeah, I've got tremendous respect for all writers, and thank you also for sending us your Swan Maiden ebook, because that looks amazing. I love the cover.
It's really good.
The cover is brilliant. It looks so on point for. I mean, how would you describe that as is that witchlit, Serene? Do you think?
Kind of. I mean, it's an original fairy tale, so it has elements of some known ones, but it's an original story, and it's set in Australia, which is unusual for a fairy tale, and that was kind of nice because my other books are set in England. But it kind of came out. I'm in the Australian Fairy Tale Society, so we kind of do research and talk about fairy tales from an Australian perspective, and it's been amazing how few there actually are set here. So it was great, and it's about one of the black swans in my park, and he transforms to help a young girl. But there's an ibis who is kind of a wizard transformed, so I guess that's a magical part. But
yeah. And I think, as Wendy and I said when we first started sort of the Witchlit group and doing these shows online, you know, we were trying to define Witchlit, and first of all, we were like, oh, it's contemporary, you know, it's chick lit, but with witches, which would be contemporary women's fiction. But actually, we've kind of broadened our view on that, haven't we, Wendy, to incorporate, obviously, non-fiction as well. But within the fiction categories, I think you've got to have fantasy, because it is, you know, there is such it seems to be so questionable what magic is to us, you know, what we think is very natural, Amazon deems as supernatural, you know, or fantasy. So it's like we've had to broaden our view on what witchlit is, because otherwise we would be a very narrow niche, and nobody would want to know, would they, really? So, because a large part of of getting your work out there is making sure that you target the market in the right way. And that's probably my first question to you, Serene, is how do you handle the marketing and balance the creative part of your writing process with the marketing of your books? How do you manage that?
I don't think I'm a very good marketer, so
You're not meant to say that, Serene. You're not meant to say that.
I'm quite happy just staying at home in my little office and writing and stuff. But for me, I've actually had the most success at events, selling to people who I can talk to and who can see the books. But of course, right now that isn't going to happen for a while. But yeah, I've tried different things. It was actually good with the audiobooks because I found an audiobook group on Facebook and gave some codes there, and there's been heaps of reviews coming through from that. So that was really helpful. But yeah, I guess, there's the people who say just the best marketing is to write the next book. Yeah. So, it's kind of, I feel like now I've got 2 trilogies and then the 2 non-fiction things. So it kind of feels like I can start marketing, I guess, now because they're complete.
Okay,
So
Serene, is how as an indie author, because that's really what we're interested about as well, as a self-published author, how much do you outsource? Do you do it all yourself, or which jobs do you outsource? What does your team look like? Because presumably, as one moves forward as an indie author, well, this is what I intend to do anyway. If I can get a little bit of money to support myself, then I'm going to want to get an editor. I'm going to want somebody to do my form. I'm going to want somebody to do my covers for me, because all that I've done myself up until now. But I can't wait to outsource these jobs so that I can write more. Right. So what do you outsource, Serene?
I'm a bit of a control freak, so I do a lot of it myself.
Yeah.
I'm so fortunate because a friend of mine who's an amazing author, but she's also an incredible artist, and she's allowed me to use her artwork for most of my covers. So that's been and that's Selena, who did all the Into the Mist and Into the Storm trilogy covers.
Okay, yeah.
She's amazing. So I've kind of stumbled through doing most of it myself because I worked in magazines for so long. I've been able to do the layout and stuff. I've been an editor too, so kind of swap with friends and help each other out in those sorts of ways. And I find the hardest thing for me, I think, is what genre I am, because a lot of the reviews from that audiobook thing was, this isn't what I thought it would be, but I really like it. But it's kind of...
Yeah, well, it was one of the reasons why we were trying to get the genre witch lit, onto Amazon, because we feel that it can encompass so many things that don't fit into other. So have you got any more questions, Sheena?
I have. Going on from actually what you've just said, Wendy, which is, getting very confused about the marketing side, the advertising side, which is part of marketing, which I haven't delved into that territory yet either. But I have found very useful, like I've told you before, Wendy, I did a course, Serene. I don't know whether you've done the Mark Dawson course. Have you? The 101? The SPF 101?
I think that's how we first met.
Yes, and I'm still finding that useful. I haven't finished the damn thing yet. It's still, I'm still sort of like 15% complete on the taskbar thing, So, but the fact that is on my computer and I can return to all those different modules as and when you need it, because I think with all this there is so much there's an overwhelming amount of information to take in and learn about self-publishing. You can't even begin to think about retaining any of it. I think what I found on my journey so far is that you have to work with the stage you're at the time, and then find out what you need to find out when you need it. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So my question to you, Serene, is which tools, because as we move forward on our indie journey, we discover that there are so many tools available, aren't there? Like there's BookFunnel, which is an amazing platform. What else is there? There's BookBub, there's the email service providers, you know, that we need for our email lists. There's all these kind of things. Which tools do you use, which are, you know, ones that you really love, and which, if somebody had to say to you, you've got to only have one tool, which would it be? Which tool would you use?
I'd probably say having a newsletter list.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't done that when I started the Mark Dawson course, and that was quite early on in it. And so I feel quite glad because I did that, and I didn't have one before I'd done that course. So I think that has been important. And even though I spend way too long writing mine, they usually take me about 3 days because I put so much content in it. But the people who do read it seem to like it. So
yeah. How often do you send a newsletter out, Serene?
It's pretty much been 8 times a year. Some people went bi-weekly, but yeah, it usually turns out that I do them every 6 weeks or so.
Oh, okay. So with the Sabbath, is that intentional? Or does it
kind of.
like that?
That's always included in it. I write a piece about whichever one's upcoming, or whichever two, because we're on the other side of the world. So
yeah. Well, that's a great idea, and as witches, that's a wonderful thing that we've got. It's another string that we've got to our bow that we can use, can't we? Because as a source of connection with our readers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I mean, I always love if I don't have many magical authors that I subscribe to, but the ones that I do, like Laura Perry, for instance, Wendy, who's in the Witch, another admin, I always love her newsletters because she talks about, you know, the magical connections and the seasons and the cycles, and that is a great big kick up the backside to me at the moment to get my newsletter written, because I haven't written one since my mum died. I remember writing and telling people that, you know, and then I haven't done one since. So I really must get a newsletter done and get my act together with doing that regularly, because, like, as you say, Serene, that's the top priority really as an indie author, isn't it? Is having your own list, because then you can build on that list and you've got something to advertise to, haven't you?
Yeah.
And it doesn't cost anything, which is more important. Okay, wonderful. My last question then for you, Serene, would be, what advice would you give to aspiring indie witchlit authors at the moment? So, or this could be advice to your younger self, say sort of 10 years ago or whatever. What advice would you give? What have you learned? We'll be here for it. Put your feet up, Wendy. Cup of coffee. We'll be here for the next half an hour, I reckon.
Oh, I don't know. I guess the thing I do advise people when they ask me at festivals and events and things is that you just have to sit down and write. Yeah. And it's amazing how many people who say they want to be a writer aren't writing anything at all. And it's always, I'll wait, or, you know, when I have time. But you just kind of have to do it and sit yourself down every day, even if when you don't want to, and get it done. But yeah, I'm trying Kindle Unlimited at the moment for the first time.
Are you?
Yeah. So I'm not sure how that's going yet, but I figured it was time to give it a go because a lot of friends swear by it and make a lot of come from that. So I thought I may as well give it a go.
Okay, so talking about writing, actually sitting your bum down and writing, that, getting into that habit every day, what does your writing cycle look like? How much writing do you do a day? What does your discipline look like?
It hasn't been that great in the last few weeks. When I'm on a deadline though, like when I was finishing the Swan Maiden, I pretty much get up in the morning and start working and do it till it's done or stay up half the night. So probably balance would be a good thing for me. I'm kind of, you know, crazy getting a deadline done or struggling to start one, but I think it's different for everybody as well. So I've got a friend who'll write 20 minutes every single day and eventually have something to show for it, and others will write once a week. And I do stuff every day, either writing or a little bit of marketing, newsletters, planning for events, kind of thing.
So would you say that you are a full-time author, or you're working towards being a full-time author?
I was made redundant from my day job 3 years ago, like the other day. So, I don't have the income yet, but what I am earning plus my savings, I'm kind of okay still. So, hopefully I won't have to get another day job. That would be the plan.
Okay. Well, good for you. Well, we wish you the best of luck with all your work. Can we just do one thing, Serene, before we sign off? Wendy and I, we always pick a card. All right. So I'm going to use my Magic of Nature Oracle. So we'll pick a card, and what I'll do, Serene, you're our guest, so you can pick the. So I'm shuffling at the moment. So you tell me when to stop, and you can pick a card.
Okay. Now. Oh, stop.
Okay.
Oh, Hidden Beauty.
Ah. And isn't that weird that you were talking about the Swan Maiden and the swans and the Hidden Beauty? And I haven't read it yet, Serene. I'm very intrigued already from what obviously by the cover, and also from what Wendy's just said. But the whole kind of shape-shifting sense, I'm getting a sense of that whole kind of shape-shifting thing about the swans. I don't know if that's what happens in it, but what do you think about that, Wendy? What do you think that card is saying?
Totally. Yeah. Things are not always what they seem.
No.
Don't judge a book by its cover. All those sort of things. Totally. 100%.
Yeah.
And perhaps it means I should tell you that the secret project I'm doing at the moment is an oracle deck.
Oh, really?
Brilliant.
How mad is that? That's excellent. Excellent. And what's your theme?
It's kind of magic, nature, connecting with cycles of seasons, and your own inner wisdom.
And is that with your friend who's the illustrator, the one that does your book covers?
Yes.
Amazing. Is she the one that did Swan Maiden?
No, that's actually a photo from a photo. Another friend did some Photoshop work on it.
Yeah.
I'll go on then.
That one?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Same one.
Yeah, same one.
What is happening? What is happening in this tree house?
I also did have a funny story about these novels, which, because it's all magic, but it's real life magic, a few reviews said, I was really disappointed because there wasn't any magic in it. And it's because it's real magic. It's a priestess running a circle for the Sabbats and for full moons and stuff. So, yeah.
Because that's something also, Serene, that Wendy and I have both sort of said, Wendy does her riverbank witch and I'm the treehouse witch. You're the Black Swan witch.
Thank you so much for joining us, Serene. It's been really lovely chatting to you and finding out more about you. And I say again, anybody who wants to read a really beautiful story, a traditional Australian fairy tale, just retold in the most beautiful way, then you need to read The Swan Maiden. Okay, there are other books, and you can find Serene online at Amazon or on her website at sereneconneeley.com as well. So maybe we'll pop the links underneath so that you can get in touch with her. So for today, from this issue of the Witchlit podcast, thank you so much for joining us. We won't leave it so long next time. Hopefully we'll have another author with us. Or it might just be me and Sheena chatting about some other stuff that's going on. So thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Mix it up together, stir the madness round and round. Lady Crow, lend me your feather, by the magic we are bound. Mix it up together.